When a black CEO decides to dress as a janitor to see how her company's staff treats employees, she gets harassed for her skin color, and what happens next is absolute cinema. The air crackles with a humid, electric charge as Marcus Kane presses his body against the cold steel of the janitor's closet door, his breath shallow, his pulse a drumbeat in his ears. Sweat beads along the taut line of his jaw, dripping onto the faded gray jumpsuit, clinging to his broad chest. The fabric rough against skin accustomed to silk. Outside, the voices of his executives, sharp, venomous, slice through the stillness of the executive floor like blades through flesh. "Get that filthy mop out of here," sneers Vanessa Hart, her tone dripping with disdain as she kicks the bucket. Marcus clutches, sending water sloshing over his worn boots. Her stiletto heel catches the light, a cruel glint mirroring the malice in her ice-blue eyes. Beside her, Richard Voss laughs, a low, guttural sound, his meaty hand slamming against the glass wall of the conference room. "You're a disgrace to this building," he spits, his words laced with a racial venom that stings deeper than the spilled water. Marcus's fingers tighten around the mop handle, knuckles whitening, the wood creaking under his grip. He says nothing, his dark eyes smoldering beneath the brim of his cap, a storm brewing in silence. They don't know who he is. Not the CEO of Kane Enterprises, cloaked in this masquerade, stands before them as a shadow, a nobody, a target. "You're fired," Vanessa declares, her voice a sultry hiss, her lips curling as she savors the power. The others, Julian Pierce, Lena Carver, join the chorus, mocking him, shoving him toward the elevator with hands that reek of privilege. The doors slide shut, and Marcus exhales, slow, dangerous breath, his lips parting in a predatory smile. They've just ignited a war they'll never win. The elevator hums as it descends, a mechanical heartbeat echoing the pulse of Marcus Kane's rage. His body, lean and powerful beneath the threadbare jumpsuit, trembles with a volatile cocktail of fury and anticipation. The scent of bleach clings to his hands, sharp and antiseptic, mingling with the musk of his skin, a lingering testament to the role he's played for weeks. He adjusts the cap, its rough, sweat-stained fabric scraping against his brow, and lets the memory of their words sear into him like a cattle brand. Each insult, each snide laugh, ignites a spark in the tinderbox of his soul. Vanessa's smirk flashes in his mind, her crimson lips a slash of arrogance against her pale skin. Richard's meaty paw slamming the glass replays like a drumroll heralding his vengeance. They think they've won, casting him out like refuse into the gleaming Los Angeles night, but they've only sharpened the blade he'll wield against them. The elevator doors slide open with a soft chime, revealing the lobby's marble expanse, cold and pristine under the fluorescent glow. His boots leave faint, wet prints, evidence of his expulsion, a trail of defiance, and the security guard nods curtly, oblivious to the storm brewing beneath the disguise. Marcus strides into the night, the city skyline glittering like a crown he's about to reclaim, its jagged edges piercing the velvet dark. His phone buzzes in his pocket, a cheap burner he's used for this deadly game, and he ignores it, letting the city's pulse horns blaring, neon flickering. The distant wail of a siren fuel his resolve. Tomorrow they'll face the man they mocked, and the fallout will be exquisite, a symphony of ruin orchestrated by his hand. The tension coils tighter as Marcus slips into his Bentley. Parked blocks away under the shadow of a sagging palm tree, its fronds drooping like mourners at a funeral. The leather seats groan beneath him, their rich scent a stark contrast to the janitor's rags he's worn like a second skin. He peels off the jumpsuit with deliberate care, revealing a tailored shirt that hugs his frame, the buttons straining against the breadth of his chest. His fingers linger on the crisp fabric, savoring the shift from prey to predator, the metamorphosis complete. The engine purrs to life, a sensual growl that vibrates through his bones, and he drives toward his penthouse, the city blurring past in streaks of light, red, gold, electric blue. His mind churns, replaying the scene that birthed this reckoning, Vanessa's stiletto heel grinding into the carpet as she sneered, Richard's bellowing laugh echoing off the glass walls, the shove from Julian's manicured hands sending him stumbling. Betrayal tastes bitter, sour tang on his tongue, but revenge, he knows, will be sweet. Honey laced with arsenic. He spent years building Kane Enterprises into a titan, his vision forged from sleepless nights, from the sweat of his brow, and the fire in his gut, a hunger no one could match. Yet these vipers, perched in their corner offices with their polished smiles and poisoned hearts, dared to spit on him, to unravel the empire he'd stitched together with his own hands. The thought ignites a heat low in his belly, a dangerous blend of anger and desire for justice, for power, for their utter ruin. The Bentley glides through the streets, weaving past the late-night stragglers, club-goers, and sequins, a homeless man pushing a cart piled with rags until it reaches the sleek tower that houses his penthouse. The valet, a young man with tired eyes, takes the keys without a word, and Marcus ascends in a private elevator. The mirrored walls reflecting a man on the edge. His reflection shows the cap still shadowing his face, and he rips it off, tossing it to the floor like a shed skin. His hair, cropped close, gleams under the light, and his eyes, dark, unyielding, burn with purpose. The doors open to his sanctuary, a sprawling space of glass and steel, the city sprawled below like a lover awaiting his command. He pours a whiskey, the amber liquid catching the light as it swirls in the crystal glass, and stands at the floor-to-ceiling window, watching the rain begin to fall, a soft patter against the silence. The drops streak the glass, distorting the lights into a kaleidoscope of color, and he sips the drink, letting its burn mirror the fire within. This is no longer about survival, it's about supremacy, about proving that Marcus Kane bends to no one. Now the story rewinds, peeling back the layers of this masquerade to its genesis, a moment born of necessity and audacity. Weeks ago, Marcus Kane sits in his office atop the Kane Enterprises tower, the city a glittering tapestry beneath him. His desk, a slab of obsidian polished to a mirror sheen, gleams under the soft glow of a chandelier, its crystals casting prisms across the room. Papers strewn across the surface detail quarterly profits that dwarf his competitors, numbers that sing of his triumph, his relentless drive. At 38, he's a man carved from ambition, his skin a deep, rich brown that glows with vitality, his eyes sharp and unyielding, his frame a testament to discipline and the hours spent in his private gym. His suits, custom-made in Milan, drape over him like a second skin, the fabric whispering wealth with every movement, and his voice, when he speaks, carries the weight of authority, a low timbre that commands attention. Yet rumors have reached him, whispers carried on the wind from the lower ranks. His executives, the elite he's handpicked and nurtured, harbor rot beneath their polished veneers. Racial slurs muttered in boardrooms, favoritism poisoning promotions, disdain for the staff Marcus has fought to uplift. These are not mere grievances, but a betrayal of everything he's built. He can't trust reports or spies. The truth must come raw, unfiltered, straight from the source. So he crafts a plan, as meticulous as it is audacious. He'll shed his title, his wealth, his name, and walk among them, as one they'd never suspect. The idea takes root late one night as he sits alone in his office. The cities hum a distant lullaby. He recalls his childhood in South Central, the cramped apartment where his mother scrubbed floors to feed him, her hands cracked and bleeding from the work. She'd died too young, her body worn out by a world that didn't care. And Marcus had warned then, kneeling by her bedside, her breath rattling in her chest, that he'd rise above it all. He'd clawed his way through UCLA on scholarships, worked nights at a warehouse to pay the rent, and built Kane Enterprises from a single software patent into a conglomerate spanning tech, real estate, and media. Every brick of this empire bears his sweat, his defiance against a system that saw him as less. Now these executives, privileged, entitled, threaten to undo it, not with competition, but with cowardice, with the same prejudice he's battled since he was a boy. The realization hardens his resolve, and he begins the transformation in secrecy. A predator donning the skin of prey. Marcus procures the jumpsuit from a thrift store in Echo Park, its gray fabric stained with the ghosts of labor, oil, sweat, time. The cap, faded and frayed, comes from the same rack, its brim bent from years of use. He studies the janitorial staff. Men and women he's quietly ensured earn living wages, their benefits a point of pride, mimicking their gait, the slight slump of shoulders worn by years of being unseen. He watches them in the break room, their laughter soft but resilient, their hands calloused but steady. There's Javier, a wiry man with a limp from a factory accident, who tells stories of his kids with a grin. Maria, a grandmother whose eyes crinkle with kindness as she shares tamales with the crew. Marcus learns their rhythms, their quiet strength, and feels a kinship he hadn't expected. His assistant Nia, a fierce ally with eyes like midnight and a mind as sharp as a blade, knows the truth but swears silence. Her loyalty a steel thread in this tapestry of deception. "You're playing with fire, Marcus," she warns one evening, her voice a low purr as she hands him the burner phone, its plastic casing cheap against her manicured nails. He smirks, his lips brushing the edge of a whiskey glass, the liquor's heat a prelude to the blaze he'll ignite. "Fire's how I built this empire, Nia. Let's see if they can stand the heat." The next morning, he steps into the role, his CEO badge swapped for a mop, his polished Oxfords traded for boots scuffed by years not his own. The executives don't blink. Why would they? He's invisible, a shadow scrubbing their floors, emptying their trash, his presence as unremarkable as the hum of the air conditioning. But he watches, listens, and the venom seeps out like oil from a cracked barrel, slick and toxic. Vanessa Hart, Chief Marketing Officer, struts through the halls, her platinum hair a cascade of entitlement, her stilettos clicking like a metronome of disdain. She's a siren in silk blouses, her beauty a weapon she wields with precision, her campaigns brilliant but her heart cold as the marble she walks on. Richard Voss, head of operations, looms like a bull, his ruddy face flushed from bourbon and bravado, his decisions rooted in greed over strategy, his laughter a bellow that rattles the walls. Julian Pierce, the CFO, hides his cruelty behind a veneer of charm, his slim frame draped in suits that cost more than most employees' rent, his smile a razor's edge. Lena Carver, VP of Sales, simmers with ambition, her hazel eyes cutting through anyone beneath her notice, her voice a whip when she deigns to speak. Together they're a cabal, their power cemented by years of unchallenged reign, their arrogance a fortress Marcus will dismantle brick by brick. As James the janitor, Marcus becomes their punching bag, a target for their casual cruelty. It begins subtly, a spilled coffee cup. Vanessa doesn't bother to pick up, a barked order from Richard to move faster. Lazy ass, but grows into a ritual of degradation. One afternoon, Vanessa snaps, "You missed a spot, boy," her finger jabbing at a pristine tile, her lips curling as she savors the word boy, its weight a slap across his face. Marcus grips the mop tighter, his knuckles whitening, but he nods, silent, cataloging the moment. Richard shoves past him in the break room, muttering, "Should have stayed in the gutter where you belong," his shoulder knocking Marcus into the counter, the edge digging into his ribs. Julian tosses a crumpled report into the trash. Marcus empties, sneering, "Figures you'd be too dumb to read it," his laughter a high grating cackle. Lena laughs, a sound like glass shattering, as she watches him scrub a spill she caused, her heel grinding the mess deeper into the carpet. Each barb lands, a bruise on his pride, a splinter in his soul, but he locks them away, his silence a vault, his patience a weapon being forged. The abuse escalates over weeks, a crescendo of cruelty that tests his restraint. He sweeps the halls late at night, the building quiet save for the hum of machinery, and overhears them in their glass-walled offices, their voices carrying through the stillness. "Cane's too soft," Richard grunts, pouring a drink from a decanter. Marcus knows cost a grand, thinks he can play savior to these nobodies. Vanessa laughs, twirling a pen. "He's a token, nothing more, got lucky and forgot his place." Julian smirks, scrolling his phone. "We'll remind him soon enough." Lena nods, her eyes glinting. "He's distracted, time to take what's ours." The words coil around Marcus like a noose, tightening with every syllable, but he keeps sweeping, the broom's rhythm a counterpoint to his racing pulse. He learns their plans, stock manipulations, a coup to oust him, and their contempt, a hatred rooted not just in greed, but in the color of his skin, the audacity of his success. One evening, the dam breaks. Marcus sweeps the conference room, the long table still littered with their papers, charts, memos, a half-eaten sandwich oozing mustard onto the wood. The door swings open, and they enter, a pack closing. Vanessa's perfume, a cloying mix of jasmine and spite, fills the air as she leans close, her breath hot against his ear. "You're nothing here," she whispers, her voice a velvet blade slicing through his calm. Richard grabs the broom, snapping it over his knee, the crack echoing like a gunshot, splinters scattering across the floor. Julian films it on his phone, laughing. This'll go viral. Janitor gets what he deserves. His lens a cold eye capturing Marcus's humiliation. Lena kicks the dustpan, scattering debris across the floor he'd just cleaned, her eyes glinting with triumph. "Pack your crap and get out," she hisses, her voice a venomous hiss. They fire him then, a mock ceremony of humiliation, shoving him into the elevator as the security feed captures their glee. Vanessa's smirk, Richard's roar, Julian's grin, Lena's cold stare. Marcus stands in the descending box, their laughter ringing in his ears, and feels the shift passion for his empire hardening into a lust for their destruction. A fire that will consume them all. The next morning dawns with a reckoning, the sky a bruised purple over Los Angeles. Marcus strides into Kane Enterprises, no longer James but the king reclaiming his throne. His suit charcoal bespoke hugs his frame, the silk tie a slash of blood red against his chest, a warning and a promise. His shoes click against the marble lobby, a metronome to the storm brewing within. Each step a beat in the rhythm of their doom. Nia meets him at the elevator, her lips twitching with a knowing smile, her tailored blazer crisp against her frame. "They're in the boardroom," she says, her voice a conspirator's whisper, her eyes alight with the same fire that drives him. Clueless as ever, he nods, his jaw tight, and ascends to the 40th floor, the ride a slow climb to the peak of his vengeance. The boardroom doors swing open, and the executives freeze mid-laugh, their coffee cups hovering, their faces paling as recognition dawns. Vanessa's eyes widen, her lipstick smudged from a sip, a crack in her perfect facade. Richard's jowls quiver, his bravado crumbling. Julian's phone slips from his hand, clattering to the table. Lena's breath catches, a choked gasp escaping her lips. Marcus stands in the doorway, his presence a thunderclap, his gaze sweeping over them like a predator sizing up prey, his shadow stretching across the room like a dark tide. "Good morning," he says, his voice smooth, lethal, a rumble that fills the room and shakes their foundations. "I trust you enjoyed firing your janitor last night," Vanessa stammers. "And Marcus?" Her voice a faltering plea, her confidence unraveling. He steps forward, his shadow swallowing the table's gleam. "Oh yes," he continues, his tone a velvet promise of ruin. "James was me. And you've just shown me exactly who you are." Richard blusters. "This is absurd, you can't," his protest weak, cut short by the weight of Marcus's stare. Marcus raises a hand, silencing him, the gesture as final as a guillotine's fall. "I can," he says, his words a decree carved in stone. "You're fired, all of you." The room erupts, shouts, curses, chairs scraping, but Marcus remains unmoved, his calm a blade sharper than their panic. Vanessa lunges forward, her nails clawing at the air. "You can't do this. I made this company's image," she shrieks, her voice cracking. Richard slams a fist on the table. "I'll sue you into the ground, Kane." Julian scrambles for his phone. "I've got proof, this is entrapment." Lena hisses, "You'll regret this, you bastard." Marcus meets each outburst with a smile, cold and unyielding, his eyes boring into theirs. "You made your choices," he says, narrated as a quiet verdict. "Now live with them." Security arrives, summoned by Nia, their boots heavy on the carpet, and drags them out, their protests swallowed by the hum of the building they no longer rule. Vanessa kicks, her heel snapping off. Richard roars, his tie askew. Julian pleads, his charm useless. Lena claws at a guard's arm, her composure shattered. Marcus watches from the boardroom, the glass wall framing their exit like a tableau of defeat. Nia steps beside him, her arms crossed. "That was almost too easy," she murmurs, a hint of amusement in her tone. Marcus exhales, the tension easing from his shoulders. "The easy part's over," he replies, his voice low. "Now we bury them." The lawsuit follows. A legal tempest Marcus unleashes with precision. He hires Evelyn Chase, a lawyer with a reputation for dismantling empires, her silver hair a crown, her mind a guillotine, her presence a force that makes judges sit straighter. The evidence piles high, security footage of the broom incident, audio from Julian's phone, witness statements from Javier and Maria, who'd seen the executive's cruelty firsthand. Racial discrimination, harassment, wrongful termination, The charges stack like bricks in a wall they can't climb. The courtroom becomes Marcus's stage, a wood-paneled arena where he performs a symphony of pain and power. Evelyn calls Javier to the stand, his limp more pronounced under the jury's gaze. They called him boy, laughed at him, Javier says, his voice steady despite the tremor in his hands. I've heard him talk about Mr. Kane like he's dirt. Maria follows, her eyes fierce. They treated us all like trash, but him they hated him most. Marcus testifies last, his suit impeccable, his voice a quiet truth that shakes the room. They saw a black man in a jumpsuit and assumed I was less, he says, his words a blade cutting through their lies. They didn't just fire me, they tried to erase me, to erase everything I've built. Vanessa tries to charm her way out, her tears crocodile-like as she claims stress. Richard threatens, his fists clenched, his lawyer restraining him. Julian pleads, his charm curdled into desperation. Lena schemes, her calls to allies ignored, her network crumbling. Evelyn dismantles their defenses, her cross-examinations surgical. Vanessa's campaigns funded by kickbacks, Richard's operations bloated with waste, Julian's books cooked, Lena's sales padded with lies. The verdict lands like thunder, guilty, with damages in the millions. Sapane Enterprises bankrupts them, their assets seized. Vanessa's Malibu condo, Richard's yacht, Julian's Porsche, Lena's vineyard, their names tarnished beyond repair. Their faces splashed across headlines, XX fallen discrimination scandal. In the aftermath, Marcus rebuilds, the penthouse, his sanctuary once more. The city lights a canvas of his triumph. He hires new executives, diverse, hungry, loyal, plucked from the ranks he once walked among, their faces reflecting the world he's fought for. Javier becomes facilities manager, his limp a badge of honor. Maria trains the staff, her tamales a weekly ritual. The janitorial crew receive raises, their dignity restored under his watch, their laughter louder in the break room. Yet the scars linger, a heat beneath his skin, a reminder of betrayal's sting. One night, as rain lashes the windows, Nia joins him, her presence a balm, her own risks, threats from Lena's allies, a slashed tire, now behind her. You changed the game, she says, her voice a murmur against the storm. He nods, his eyes distant, the whiskey glass cold in his hand. For me, he replies, a vow etched in his tone, and for everyone they'd have crushed next. The passion that drove him, sensual, fierce, settles into resolve, a fire banked but never extinguished. A new threat looms, a whisper from a rival firm eyeing Kane Enterprises' wounds. But Marcus is ready. He stands at the window, the rain a curtain between him and the world, and feels the pulse of his empire beneath his feet. Marcus Kane, the janitor who became a king, knows this victory is just the beginning. A chapter closed but a book still being written, its pages thick with ambition, vengeance, and the promise of more.